You're really going to do this right here? Okay, this is happening.
Yeah.
It's okay. This will be the intro. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of This Is My Bourbon Podcast, where we talk about the spirit of Kentucky. I'm Perry, and this was a very impromptu episode that happened. But I would really like to welcome my good friend. You know what? What do you even go by anymore? Is it Robert or Rob or Bobby or?
These days, it's mostly Rob. Rob with two B's specifically. Yeah.
Okay, great. So Rob Hanna, one of my oldest friends, is hanging out with me tonight.
Yes.
You know what's funny is that last night I went out to dinner with Mom and Dad, and not only did your dad stop in to get food, but your uncle was there too.
Really?
Yes.
How serendipitous, I guess.
It's very strange that we all just kind of wind up in the same vicinity, in one way or another. Yeah. But so, as we always do, we drink on the show. We are starting out with one of my all-time favorites, Heaven Hill Bottled and Bond.
Yes.
New
favorite for me, too.
Oh, man.
Yeah. It's so solid.
It's just $12 worth of goodness.
Yeah. I found it through your podcast, so.
Oh, well.
Long-time fan,
hey.
everybody.
First-time caller. As... longtime listeners know, this won our very first battle in our very first episode of budget bottled and bond bourbons. And I haven't found much that has compared to it, especially at this price. But
yeah.
I mean, look, if you're trying to find a house bourbon or an everyday sipper,
look no further.
Yeah, and if you're in Kentucky.
This podcast is sponsored by Heaven Hill Bottled and Bond. No, it isn't.
Heaven Hill. Oh, man, I wish. Hey, Heaven Hill and Denny Potter and all y'all. We'd love to, do some sponsorships with you guys. But this show is also brought to you by Pet Sitting. We're just hanging out with the pets of the show.
Yes.
Today. Say hello, Cat. Good job.
Well, she tried. She tried.
So we like to get things kicked off by asking what we've been drinking recently. So Robert, what you been drinking?
Oh man, I guess. Oh, most recently I tried. Costco has a new line of craft beer.
Oh really?
Yeah. It's in bottles. It's I think it was a pack of porters, stouts, IPAs, and APAs, and they are less than mediocre. So. So yeah, that's been my most recent thing. Yeah, yeah, pretty much that and this Heaven Hill stuff. I got a bottle and I've just been sipping on it. Yeah, no, it's great.
Awesome.
Yeah, I guess.
Let's see. Well, I celebrated my very last college project today.
Woo!
As of recording, yeah, woo is right. So we killed a bottle of Van Winkle 10.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, which is not something you hear when you're talking about celebration. But I was like, you know what? It's here, so I may as well. And
that's a perfect time to.
Yeah, and sticking with Buffalo Trace, I had some Weller 12 earlier tonight too, which is by and large, I think, probably my favorite bourbon.
Weller 12.
Yeah. Yeah, and we have Weller 107 on deck for our next pour too here in a bit.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Yeah.
So.
Have you had much experience with the Weller line?
No, I've had one of the Wellers. I think is the youngest. I can't remember
Special Reserve.
Yeah, I think it was Special Reserve. It was great, but
90 proof, and usually if you can find it, for its market price of $20, I mean,
yeah,
it's so hard to beat, especially at like an everyday sipper kind of level.
Yeah.
You know, and we've talked about so many times whether or not it's worth the price gouging that goes on.
Yeah.
I mean, finding like 750s for like $100 is unreasonable.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's not $100 worth of bourbon.
Yeah,
but
I don't see myself ever spending $100 on hardly anything in 750 size. So.
On any bourbon, period.
On anything ever.
Okay. Well, we need to back up for a second then, because we have to establish the fact that, you know, I've said on the show many times, I'm a musician, and Robert, for a long time has been, I mean, I've dubbed you my drummer, but you're much more than that. I mean,
I'm the house drummer, yeah. Not just the drummer.
I mean, we're like, I've felt for a long time too that we're like collaborators.
Oh yeah,
when it comes to music,
for sure.
But like, I mean, you've spent more than $100 on drums before, right?
Yeah, well, now the cat's out of the bag. But yeah, I spent way too much money, and my wife's savings went into that hobby.
I've been there before too, so I understand. Yeah.
But,
So this episode kind of came up as just kind of an impromptu, like me going, "Hey, what are you doing tonight? And why don't you come over and drink some bourbon?" Which I think like is kind of a fun topic of like going, what do you do on your off nights? You know?
Yeah.
Because on my off nights, I drink bourbon.
Yeah.
But
you know, since I'm kind of on a sabbatical between my undergrad and grad school, I'm kind of pretty much every night has been an off night for the past couple months, and it's starting to wear on me, to be honest. But yeah, bourbon is involved a good amount of the time.
How much music is involved at this point?
A lot more recently, actually. I've been inspired by a lot of new music that's coming out, so I've been trying to write more my own original stuff, which has been a lot of fun. Finally getting into that craft a little bit.
Yeah.
Getting away from just playing drums, which has been great.
What kind of genre do you lean towards with your songwriting?
It's kind of in the singer-songwriter realm. Very broad, but
I mean, I know what you.
Yeah.
I know what you're going for.
But yeah, it's usually kind of I don't know if like sadcore is the way to say it, but it's not always happy.
That period.
It's kind of like Father John Misty inspired to a degree.
Sure.
Yeah. So, but I'm still trying to figure that out. Yeah.
That's so interesting to me about songwriting, and really like with any craft, is that you never really know what you're getting into.
Yeah. Until
you've taken the time to try it out.
Right.
You know, I mean, like anybody who has heard my music before, like I mean, I've been writing music since I was 13.
Oh yeah.
And I'm 24.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, the songs that I wrote at 13, I don't want anybody to hear. I mean, they're out there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, plenty of people can go and find them, but and when I was 13 too, I actually did like record those songs. And the guy that I recorded them through always said, "This is going to be a really good timestamp for you to know where you were at this time."
That's a great way of thinking about it, yeah.
And it really kind of takes away, or like it takes you out of this negative mindset of like,
this is bad.
Yeah.
Or naive, and just being like, yeah, this is like an important stepping stone to where you are now. That's cool, yeah.
Exactly. And like, I think that songwriting is so specific to that. Like, you don't have that opportunity with something like bourbon.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there isn't a timestamp that you can really find.
Jim Beam White Label.
Well, but that wasn't something that, Jim Beam made and then moved past. Like, Jim Beam White Label has
I see what you're making, like the actual, like, bourbon maker.
Yeah. I mean, sure, I mean, as a drinker, you can look at stuff that you've had before and go, oh, I've moved well past that.
Fireball.
But yeah, like as a creator, it's hard to put that much time and effort into something that is being pretty immediately consumed like bourbon.
Yeah.
And be able to move past that period. Like you kind of have to have product A, which is going to set the standard for your distillery or, your brand or whatever.
Yeah.
And then, branch out from there, or you just flail.
Yeah.
I mean, and there have been so many craft distilleries that have flailed.
Yeah. Specifically, like, do you have any in mind? Since I'm not like I wouldn't call myself a bourbon aficionado.
Yeah, of course. Well, like, unfortunately, like Bourbon 30, which was a craft distillery out of, I want to say Danville.
Okay.
And I'm probably wrong on that, but anyway, they did really well for a long time, and then they kind of just petered out.
Yeah.
And like their whole game was, we are going to create a bourbon that is drinkable anytime. I'll deal with her in a second.
Yeah.
And we want to create something that you don't have to like struggle to drink or anything, but it just wasn't aged long enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like
I think the oldest that their product was like 6 months.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And unfortunately, like with a product that's 6 months old, one of two things is going to happen. People are going to latch on and go, oh, I want to wait until it gets older and I'm going to, see the fruits of their labor.
Yeah.
Or it's not going to be good enough.
Right.
And they're just going to go, I'd rather spend my money on something else.
Yeah, yeah.
And
yeah, it's an unfortunate place to be.
Yeah, and so for something with like songwriting, people can see glimmers of hope.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I had a couple of songs back when I was first writing that were like, this is in the right direction, but it wasn't quite what I wanted it to be.
Right. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. But you just don't have that opportunity with bourbon because people expect something now.
Right.
Yeah,
it has to be a complete package.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, which is interesting you say that because a lot of stuff that I've written recently, music-wise, there have been like little tidbits of like old stuff that like when I wrote those old things, it would like a lot of it would just be garbage. But there'd be like maybe one riff that I'd be like, oh yeah, that was kind of cool, and then I adapt it and go from there. But,
and I've done that with like lyrics too. Yeah. Recently, like with the first album that I really put out. Mine Heart, which Robert was a part of and the drummer for and everything. And I had a great time with that album.
Oh, yeah, it was really fun.
And playing a lot of that stuff live. Yeah. But there was one song on there called Look, which the first draft of was really bad.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first draft?
Yeah, I might know what you're talking about.
It was like really slow and just, I wouldn't say boring, but it just didn't have like the punch the final version did.
Yeah, yeah.
But like I took the idea of it and just kind of amped it up and everything, and it became like this whole new animal.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy what just a feel change can do for a song. Sure. Yeah.
But I think what's interesting though about like we're in an era where you can write a song and you can record it basically in 30 minutes.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And have people hear it.
Yeah.
You know. But
SoundCloud rapping.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ooh. But that kind of immediacy doesn't exist in the craft spirits world, or just the spirits world in general. Like, I mean, you don't see distilleries popping up and a month later having a product out.
Yeah, you can't like age things,
no,
super quick.
And people have tried.
Skip time.
Yeah, and people have tried, and it's just not worked. Okay, well...
When you say...
welcome Marie to the podcast, everybody.
She has a voice, too.
She has something to say. This is my squeaker.
You say there have been attempts at that, like... You're talking about, like, aging processes?
Yeah.
Like, what kind of stuff you try doing?
So, I mean, there have been... Like, anything from... like smaller casks to like I saw something recently that was like aging sticks, where basically you just take like an oak stick and you put it in your glass, and it's supposed to
like simulate like
kind of yeah, and it just seems cheap to me.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, that's cheating.
I mean, it takes away from the like aging bourbon itself. Sorry that you have a zoo going on over by you.
I'm totally fine with this.
But aging bourbon itself is kind of like, it is an experience. Yeah. It is like a time commitment.
Yeah.
And it just takes away from that whole
authenticity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
The craft itself. Yeah,
I think like with songwriting too, there are people who go, "Oh, I can do that." Yeah. Same thing with bourbon. People are going, "Oh, I can do that."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, to me, that kind of reminds me of, I know a lot of people love, Pro Tools and things like that. For those who aren't familiar, like, there are softwares that you can record music with that can actually, like, alter the beat placement, like, while you're recording. And it's actually, like, well, on paper, it sounds like great. It's like, well, you're fixing the mistakes and things like that. But it also kind of takes away the human element. So I kind of see a parallel there to a degree.
I agree.
Yeah, it's kind of just like, trying to find perfection by taking the easy way out and taking out the,
And to me, like, I'm so interested in what happens when you let nature take its course.
Yeah.
With bourbon. Because at some point, like, you can I'm going to use this word because it's not real, but it's the best way I can describe this idea. You can scientificate.
I love that.
You can, overproduce a whole scenario and get a certain result, but at some point with the bourbon production process, this is great, by the way, having a animal fight in the background. At some point, you just kind of have to let things happen the way that they do.
Yeah.
And for me with music, nothing is ever going to be perfect.
No. Yeah.
I mean, we're never going to play exactly at 120 beats per minute at exactly on pitch for F sharp.
Yeah.
There
are those that say they can. But
and I mean, all the power to them.
Yeah.
But to me, I want each experience to be different.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know, I mean, and it's boring if I do everything exactly the same way every single time.
Yeah, yeah.
And if I drink the exact same bourbon every time I pick up a glass,
yeah, it loses its luster.
It does.
Variety is the spice of life.
Yeah.
And bourbon. So.
I mean, like, this is not a vodka podcast.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean, not that...
Thank God.
I don't think... Are there any vodka podcasts out there? I'm really curious now to...
I don't know, maybe in Russia. Do they have this there?
Quick check is going to find out whether or not that's true.
This is your vodka podcast? I can't do a Russian accent.
It tastes like potato.
And terrible.
And pain.
Just like Grandma Babushka used to make up for me.
It come in same jar. My Russian accent stems exclusively from Iron Man 2 and Mickey Rourke.
What a wonderful.
I want my board. Anyway, I would be really surprised if you said yes. There are vodka podcasts out there.
I don't see anything specifically with vodka.
It's probably just like spirits and...
Yeah, it would probably
grouped
into a blanket genre.
Yeah.
But,
okay, let's pour something else.
All right.
I mean, if you're... Are you done with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, so I am going to rinse my glass out real quick. And so it's Robert, or Rob, with 2 B's.
Yes.
Rubba.
For those of you who don't know me, that's not actually how I'm not that pretentious. Only a little bit.
We're gonna crack open a bottle of Weller 107.
Very excited.
This is easily one of my favorite bourbons.
Wonderful.
And I have a whole handle of it, and I've kind of been waiting for like the right time to open it up.
Today's the day.
I mean, like, what better day than April 29th in 2018?
A warm day.
A very warm, a beautiful day, some would say. I'm going to pour for Robert first.
Thank you.
Look, you may change your name, but you will always be Robert.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, I might just go back to Robert. It's too much backlash.
Hanna-Barbera.
So, yeah. Follow me. Hashtag at me.
Oh, we'll do some plugs later on.
So I am just a quick side thing. So I see that this Weller bottle has a screw off top.
It does. Yes.
Yeah, which like a lot of people associate that with like lower quality, but obviously cork has its issues too. So how do you?
Of course.
Yeah, that versus like synthetic cork and things like that. Like, what's your opinion on it?
I mean,
because the aesthetic of a cork is like...
It's in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah, is it because it's like, the classic look, or is it, just because...
You know what? Like, at the end of the day, I don't really care.
Yeah. Like,
like, I can easily go, I would much rather have a real cork, but I don't care. I mean, if the product is good,
yeah,
it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
have to agree.
Like the entire Weller line, the Special Reserve 107 and then Weller 12, they're all screw top.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'll buy all 3 of them.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't care.
Yeah. Secondary question for somebody who I know more about like wine and beer than I do bourbon. So specifically with wine, you get a lot of wine faults that come with having a cork. Like you can get infections, things like that, what they call cork taint, which, alters the aroma and flavor profile.
Yeah.
So does that happen with bourbon?
I think it does, but not quite to the effect.
Yeah, because the higher
that it does with
alcohol
wine.
content probably
Contact.
contact.
Contact. Yeah, I think it does happen. I mean, I've had bourbons before where it's actually started to erode the cork.
No way. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
But not cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it has affected the bourbon itself, but
very interesting.
Yeah, I just don't care.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I mean, I've had everything from one end of the spectrum to another, and you know, I just don't care.
Yeah, and this Weller is delicious, by the way.
Oh, I mean,
oh Lord, it's the perfect amount of bite, in my opinion.
I agree.
Yeah, what is this? 107?
107 proof. Yeah.
Yeah. Sweet spot.
It doesn't. So it's a wheated bourbon, which means that they've replaced the rye in the mash bill with wheat.
Right.
And I think that if this were, you know, of course, if it were, if it had rye in the mash bill, it would be a completely different bourbon. But like, I would be surprised if I actually liked this with rye.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. I guess I have a hard time really envisioning like the big flavor profile differences between the two. I've had a lot of rye and I've had a lot of wheated bourbons, but well, not a lot of wheated bourbons, but
you've probably had more than you think.
So is it more? Yeah. So rye is like usually spicier.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah. Okay.
And this becomes just a more, I mean, for lack of a better phrase, a smoother experience. But anyway, yeah, I think it would be a really interesting experiment. Not that, you know, we have any kind of in with Buffalo Trace to go, hey, just for one barrel.
Yeah, just make us
change things up.
Yeah.
And, you know, we'll buy every bottle, which is not going to happen.
Yeah.
What do you lean towards? You know what I didn't ask you? I didn't ask you how you got into bourbon, because you're new on the show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Long time listener, first time.
Yep.
Guest.
First time caller. Yeah, I guess kind of the generic answer to a degree is I started out with, you know, Jim Beam and what's the other one? Everybody goes to
Jack Daniels?
Evan Williams.
Oh, Evan Williams. Yeah.
Evan Williams.
Yeah.
I actually have never had Jack Daniels, believe it or not.
It's just not worth it.
Yeah. Actually, I think I had one of their like nicer versions, but I still didn't like it.
Yeah.
So I don't gravitate towards that. But yeah, at first I just had a lot of like friends who they didn't even question, you know, drinking Burnett's for, you know, their drink of choice for a long time, and I was just like, well, you know, something clicked, and I said, like, I'm from Kentucky. I might as well, you know, understand this thing and, like, at least have, like, you know, a workable...
An appreciation of it.
Appreciation for, you know, the spirit of Kentucky.
Hey!
So, like, This
is my bourbon podcast.
Yeah, so I ventured out into, like, you know, makers and things like that pretty early.
A wheated bourbon.
I tried to.
So.
Okay. This is a learning experience for everybody. I didn't know myself. So I tried like to appreciate those. It was kind of just like forcing it, you know, forcing that taste on my part until I actually did like it. So here I am today, I guess.
On a bourbon podcast.
Yeah. Really self-flagellation.
Where we're mostly talking about music.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that though, because like I feel like so many people from Kentucky are like, they're just gonna hate me if I don't like bourbon.
Yeah, I kind of felt like a shame almost.
Yeah.
Which is weird because I'm not like, you know, card carrying Kentuckian by any means. I don't care about horses. Let's be honest. But still, there's this one thing. It's just like, yeah, bourbon it has a cool factor, you know. So
of course,
of course, felt like I needed to know it, you know.
And I think that, like, even if you don't like bourbon, I mean, you're listening to this show. Of course, you're gonna like bourbon. I mean, it's weird if you're like, you know what, I don't like bourbon, but I'm really going to give this podcast a try because I just, I'm looking for something new. But
it's the immersion, you know.
Yeah. I want to do everything except like it before I get into the culture.
Right.
Everybody goes through that period of everybody who drinks bourbon goes through that period of, I just have to try it.
Yeah.
And you work on your palate.
That actually has an interesting music connection for me. In particular, is like
I was thinking that.
Yeah, because a lot of music outside the mainstream is really hard to get into at first, until you kind of immerse yourself into it, and the more you hear the details. I guess some things in particular are like heavier music. It obviously does not sound appealing to the ears the first couple times you listen to it, but then once you kind of learn to hear the intricacies and the details, then you can start to appreciate things that are a little bit different. I'm sure there's a lot of other examples of that too, but it just kind of came to mind.
Yeah, and you almost have to educate yourself on what is, and I'm going to say good, but that's kind of a douchey term. But you do have to kind of educate yourself on what's good and what's not good.
Yeah.
Or understand what's happening,
Right.
And it doesn't have to be that you... The cat just really wants to love on Robert. Yeah. And Marie's not having it.
You can share.
Yeah. But it's not like you have to just love every single guitar riff or every syncopated drum beat.
Right.
Yeah. But I think that there is something for everybody in every genre of music.
Yeah.
But you pigeonhole yourself into, I only like X or I only like Z or
Yeah. That goes back to the earlier theme of variety is the spice of life. If you only listen to, Kesha and Britney Spears and things like that, those are perfectly fine things to like. But, I mean, there's just so much more out there,
Sure.
It's,
sure.
You can only grow from having more of a, I don't even know what the word is, kind of exposure to new things. And,
of course.
And really trying to understand the art that's behind it,
I think, too, that, if you limit yourself to just drinking Burnett's or Woodford or
Fireball.
Yeah, I mean, you're just... Well, first off, I have to say, that may just be what you like.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with liking, that kind of stuff. Yeah. A lot of people don't really care to grow that. A lot of people aren't big music people. They don't really like the audio arts. A lot of people just don't really, really care what they're drinking, I guess, in the same way.
Yeah.
Which I don't happen to be one of those people, but...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a whole podcast about how I care about what I'm drinking, so...
Right.
But I think what, this episode is going to be more about... Because, I was thinking originally, and a lot of this has just kind of been impromptu, but I think what the episode is going to be called is, this is, the craft of bourbon,
Yeah.
Because that's more of what we're talking about, is just, the craft of what you love.
Yeah, the artistry behind it.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's a lot of that.
I think that there is an art behind creating an aged whiskey. or an aged spirit.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, science is art. Art is science.
Yeah, of course. But like I said earlier, at some point you just kind of have to let things take the course that they're going to take.
Absolutely.
And I mean, you can nail things down to the char number of the barrel and the level of rye that you have in your mash bill and everything. But at the end of the day, like, if it doesn't work together in the scientific or just the natural process of creating your product, there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I couldn't agree more.
I mean, it in the same way that, like, some people, have the talent for music and some people don't, I mean, we've both been parts of, or we, like, individually have been a part of musical groups that just didn't quite have it.
Yeah.
Even though it just seemed like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. But if you have it, you have it. If you don't, you don't.
Right.
And I mean, at some point you have to really understand that.
Yeah.
Regardless of what you do.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't think there's even a bourbon connection to this point, but going off what you're saying, it has nothing to do with the individual people. It's just like the total package. A lot of times it's just like, people don't necessarily get along in that kind of regard. So maybe there's a bourbon connection in there that I can pull in. This mash bill doesn't match this bourbon barrel.
No, that's a different conversation entirely.
Get me on a tangent, and I'll take you down a rabbit hole.
We can get on as many tangents as you want. Did you do anything for Record Store Day this year?
I visited CD Central.
So did I.
I did pick up a vinyl, which I still wonder why I love having a vinyl collection, but I never play them.
I don't
I have a setup, but it's just like I still just listen to the MP3, even though I know that there's better quality there. But I picked up a vinyl of Ghost, which is like a Swedish heavy metal band.
I know who you're talking about.
Kind of a spiritual successor to Black Sabbath kind of sounding things.
Interesting.
Yeah, their newest album, not the one that's about to be released very soon, but a few years ago they had one, Meliora, which I picked up, which is great. It's a great album. I recommend it if you're trying to branch out into some
We'll get to
stuff.
tips and bits later, but
all right,
sure.
That's a pre-tip and bit. So yeah, what about you?
I also went to CD Central,
At
which, by
times.
the way, is
it's a great place.
Yeah, for anybody who's not from Lexington, Kentucky, it's basically
it's like the
like
cool vinyl shop.
Yeah, I mean it is Lexington's best music store.
Yeah, there are a few others, and they have like kind of the underground vibe to them, which is cool.
Yeah, but
that one just it's very it's
for everybody.
Right. Yeah, it's got a little bit of everything.
I got Childish Gambino's Because of the Internet.
Great
which
choice.
I haven't had on vinyl yet, but I'm super excited for it. It's always been one of my favorite albums. I haven't read through the screenplay that comes with the vinyl yet, but
oh, I didn't even know about that.
There is a screenplay that comes with the vinyl. It's 72 pages.
Holy cow, that's sweet. That's one of my favorite things about vinyl is you get a lot of extra stuff a lot of the time that you just do not get with a CD or anything like that. Mm-hmm. It's great.
I love the visceralness. Is that a word?
Viscerality.
I love how visceral vinyl is.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, a CD is something that you can, I mean, literally just throw in and not think about.
Yeah.
But a vinyl, I think it takes time out of your day to, appreciate and enjoy.
Yeah, it really guarantees that you're, invested in what you're, experiencing.
Yeah.
Which I think is a cool thing. Yeah, a little side note, now that we're on the topic of CD Central, is my dad, Tom Hanna, little shout out.
Shout out, Tom.
Yeah, he used to own a record store called Album Alley at the same time that CD Central was called Cut Corner Records. I think it was. I could be wrong about that, yeah.
Yeah.
And he has a funny story. At the time, him and his business partner were talking about, just various things they wanted to do, because CD was coming out at around that time. Can't remember what year it was.
Late 80s.
Yeah,
Early
I think it was
90s.
like 88 maybe.
Yeah.
But my
We're
dad
too
said,
young.
yeah, sorry. My dad was saying, oh yeah, we might want to invest in the CD thing because I think vinyl is probably going to be taken over by CDs soon. And then his partner said, that'll never catch on. And lo and behold, they went out of business next year. So yeah, just funny little thing. So they're not around anymore. CD Central is the...
Well, I just found out this story last night. It just goes to show how far back our mine and Robert's relationship goes. I found out last night that your Uncle Tom had
Uncle Bob.
Uncle Bob, sorry. Your dad's
My
Tom.
name's...
Sorry, yeah, sorry. Your Uncle Bob had a recording set up in his basement for a while.
I didn't even know this.
Well, you're definitely not going to know this story then. One, like, Saturday or Sunday morning, my dad gets a call from your Uncle Bob, and he's like, what are you doing, Dave? And my dad's like, nothing. And he's like, well, you want to come over and record a rap song?
Oh my Lord.
Yes. So somewhere out there is a recording of my dad, who has been on the show twice now.
Oh my Lord.
Rapping something. And he doesn't remember exactly what it is. I want to hear it so badly.
Yeah, I'm sure there was bourbon involved in this.
Oh, there had to have been something involved in this.
That is hilarious.
Oh, I to think that, like, my knack for recording things comes from my dad rapping.
That's fantastic.
I can't even imagine it. If you know my dad, you're like, there's no way that you would ever rap anything.
Oh yeah,
you know.
No,
I mean,
yeah.
I can't rap to save my life.
Yeah,
you know.
No.
But I just want to hear that so bad.
Oh yeah, for sure. Me too. And another shout out to Bob. So fill out the Bob and Tom show. Yeah, he actually is what got me started into music. He let me borrow his vintage Fender Stratocaster.
Nice.
For a while, and kind of, prompted me to learn how to play guitar and also a drum set and a bass guitar, which I still have the bass guitar. So yeah, he's kind of what got me started in that. So yeah.
Everything goes back
full circle.
Yeah, everything goes back to family too, I think.
Oh, for sure.
You know, like I mean, I wouldn't drink bourbon, I don't think, if it weren't for my dad.
Yeah.
You know. I mean, if it weren't around, I would probably be like, it's just something that's there.
Yeah, I don't think my dad is as big into bourbon, but it's definitely I think now he's starting a little bit of a collection, which is cool.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, he picked up some of that Henry McKenna that you talk about all the time. One of those.
Well, he better start buying some more bottles of it soon because it might be gone sooner than he thinks.
Yeah.
So let's move into our review.
Perfect.
I'm really interested and a little bit scared to find out what this is going to be like. So, Robert, tell us a little bit about what you. Oh, Marie, don't sniff the microphone.
That's expensive.
Tell us,
except not.
Except it's really not. It's still the Rock Band microphone. But anyway, tell us a little bit about this whiskey that you brought along to try.
Yeah, so me and this whiskey go way back to 3 hours ago when I was at Kroger on Shinaway Road. Shout out. So it's Boondocks from Bardstown, Kentucky. I don't think it's not technically a bourbon. It's an American whiskey, is what it says. Aged in Kentucky, obviously. It's from Bardstown. It's 95 proof, and it is aged for 11 years.
I'm nervous, but
Yeah, so describe the color here, because it's very...
It's apple
white.
Juice.
Yeah, it looks like apple juice.
I mean, like, if you poured this next to apple juice, I would have been like, I don't know what's what.
Like, it's a nice color, but not for bourbon.
No, I mean, it's definitely not a bourbon color. I mean...
Yeah, like, comparing this to...
The Heaven Hill bottled and bond.
6 year, this is about 55 shades.
It's like if you took, like on the computer, like you took, like in Photoshop... You took two images and like you turned the red up on one and then turned the red down on another. Like the one where the red is down would be the Boondocks.
Yeah, this guy graphic designs.
Yeah. I'll take a picture of it and put it up on of course
for sure
on Instagram.
Yeah, it's how would you rate this this bottle design before we get into this?
I'm gonna give it like a 4 out of 10.
A 4 out of 10.
Like it's readable, but it just kind of seems like
the label is just.
You know what? I'm gonna bump it up to a 6.5.
I actually do like the shape.
I do too.
I'm not gonna lie.
It's very different.
It caught my eye for sure. That's why I kind of gravitated towards it.
Definitely.
Plus, it was like very on sale. So.
I like the I like the mix between like the on bottle label. And like the printing right on the bottle, so like Boondocks is printed right on the bottle, but it still has a label with the information on it and everything. So
so I do like this little tidbit that's on the back of the label. You can see it from behind the bottle onto the front label. It says "Compromises for politicians." So yes, shaming Henry Clay. I don't know. But
you can't. We can't do that. We can't do that. It's Henry Clay.
Yeah.
I mean,
come on.
He's our boy.
He's our boy.
He's our boy.
That's my boy,
Has
Blue.
Has anybody ever said that before? Henry Clay's my boy.
Surely,
we have fun here on this.
I'm sure Andrew Jackson said that at some point. No, he didn't.
He pointed right to him.
That's my boy, Blue.
That's my boy up there.
All right, so we ready to pop this guy open?
Let's pop this cork.
Let's see if we can get some. That's a good.
That was a really interesting pop.
Yeah,
there was a lot of bass in there.
Yeah, that was a very bass heavy pop.
Uh-oh. Robert's giving it a good sniff.
Before I say anything, I'm going to let Perry smell this.
Okay.
The open bottle, and
it smells like wine.
It does smell like wine. It kind of has like a.
It has a very like grapey smell to it.
It really does. Like.
Thanks, Grease from this from the podcast. Grapey.
Grapey, yes.
Anyway.
Yeah, so that's
I'll
let you be the master pourer.
Oh, jeez. That's what I want.
Yeah, and it's like not grapey in like a good or a bad way. I wouldn't say like it's not an offensive thing.
No,
we'll see what the glass smells like. But
I kind of hate the color.
I really hate the color. Like it's even more mild in the glass. Like obviously because it's there's not as much of it. It's just kind of like. But it looks like a white wine. Almost
it really
like a really dark colored white wine. It's
I don't like the nose.
Yeah, I think that one's gonna be it's gonna be a little bit questionable.
What is that? That's very specific. But
yeah, I'm trying to. It does have kind of a green apple kind of vibe to it.
It does.
Which is really common around white wines, which is really just interesting that would show up in a bourbon. But I mean, not being
American whiskey.
American whiskey.
This is not a bourbon.
This is not a bourbon. Hashtag not my bourbon.
Hashtag not my bourbon is exactly right. Oh, that will. I think that'll be the hashtag on this episode.
The thing is like if this was a white wine or a ported wine, I might like the smell a little bit better. But
as far as a whiskey goes,
it's just not what I'm going for. If I'm trying to drink a whiskey,
the legs kind of bother me. Like they're very stringy.
Yeah. Remind me what the
what is that smell on?
So is it the more of a trail, the legs, the more or the less alcohol?
Yes.
Usually.
Yes.
Yeah.
What? That smell is so specific to something, and I cannot figure out what it is. Oh, it's like it's a type of cough medicine.
Yeah, that's never good.
I know exactly what it is. It's lemon.
Yeah, it kind of smells like lemon Ricola.
Yes, that's
it really
that's
does.
What it is.
It really does. God, now that's like I don't know if you just kind of incepted that into my brain, but it's like that ruined it for me.
I'm sorry, but I mean that's about all.
I still stand by my statement that if this was a white wine, I would be okay with that smell. I would honestly be okay with it. But
so before we try it, I gotta ask you, and you said it was very on sale.
Okay, so well, this is also like quote unquote on sale at Kroger. So it said that it was a $47 bottle. On sale for $27.
Oh my gosh!
So I don't know if that's actual sale or if it's just they love to have their yellow tags out.
Yeah.
So
Well.
Yeah.
We'll find out.
That is interesting.
Oh, it tastes a lot better than it smells.
It tastes a lot better than it smells, to be honest.
Yeah, but I still get like the lemon Ricola on the back end of the palate.
Yeah, I was gonna say more like, nail polish remover kind of burn on this. I'm not gonna lie, it definitely has more of a burn than I was expecting.
Yeah.
For how mild the look of it and how much these legs trail, it's just there's a lot of burn in there for me.
Especially at, what'd you say it was, 95?
It is proof? It is 95 proof, yeah. I don't hate the taste.
I don't either, but I just wish that it had more to offer.
Yeah, it's not very complex, I would say.
No. No, I don't think so either.
It's kind of just like, one more taste.
It's one note. Like
monotonic, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, music man. Like there's the green apple flavor. There's the lemoniness. And like there's no barrel influence. There's no caramel. I mean, it's just kind of... Yeah,
there's not much of what you would expect at all.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know if that's like necessarily a detriment in all cases, but
in this case,
yeah.
Look, and like this was originally marked at $47.
Yeah,
and I would think that at an almost $50 whiskey, you would get more
complexity.
Yeah.
I would have to agree. Another kind of side note that I just thought of, like. This is a very light flavor profile, I would say. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of like that, appley and lemon taste. Would you... I feel like I would enjoy this, like, sipping on the patio, like, on a warm day.
I would, too.
Like, in the summer. Like, this would not be a bad choice.
No, I don't think so either.
Yeah.
And, like, that, it's been sitting open for a little bit. And the longer that I've had to smell it, it's become kind of floral.
Yeah.
Like it's nothing like specific with the nose, but it's very like, I mean, it just smells like flowers.
Yeah, it really does. It's
almost,
I want to say it's growing on me a little bit. I wouldn't say. I wouldn't say. Like if I'm reaching for. If I'm like, yeah, I want to drink bourbon tonight. I will not grab this. Mm-mm. Granted, I will now because I've invested.
You have to.
But
you know what? I actually kind of like the palate on this.
I really do like the palate on this. It has a burn to it, but it's not like offensive.
I agree.
At all.
I agree.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
And you said you've never heard of this
never heard of this before.
Yeah, Boondocks.
Yeah. It looks like the old Pogue bottle, which we've had on the show before. I'll show you what that looks like.
Yeah.
Here in a little bit. It's got the same generic shape to it. But I've never heard of this before. Some of the caramel really is starting to come through too now that it's been sitting open for a bit. But
yeah, is that common for? I know you've talked about things sitting out like for a little bit while they're open. Yeah.
Yeah. The longer that you give,
I guess it's oxidation. Really,
it is.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. But
yeah, this is really interesting. I'm glad we're trying this for sure. Like
I am too. And like the finish is kind of, for me the finish is like nothing but heat. You know what I mean? Like there's just a lot of like the spice on the back end, and it's almost like, I think when I say spice, what I mean more is mint.
Yeah, I can see that.
Like it
kind of has like a spearmint kind of like lingering.
Yep.
It's not offensive, but it's there. It's,
yeah. And that's not something really that I would prefer to have.
I guess I would have to be in the mood for this kind of thing.
I would have to too. Yeah. And like at $50.
Yeah.
This is almost for me like a take it or leave it kind of whiskey.
Yeah, so I mean, I know you go by the 20-point thing, but like if this stood on, I think you mentioned like buy a bottle, buy a shot, or leave it. Mm-hmm. Based on another show.
Buy Bar Pass, thanks to the podcast.
Podcast, yes.
Yeah.
Where would this stand on that? I feel like
this is a bar. This is definitely a bar for me.
Yeah.
And the reason is because like it is different. It's interesting, but it's not something that I think I wanted to or that I would want to compete with other things on my bar, like my home bar.
Yeah.
You know, not that I think that like it would interfere with my decisions or like that it would overpower other decisions that I would make. But I just think that it would kind of get in my way. Yeah. Like I don't want to worry about it.
It would just kind of sit there.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't,
Yeah.
I think I might actually buy this one, depending on the price. It's like, for what I got it for, $27 is still kind of like more than I would want to pay for it.
Yeah.
But it definitely is something different that is on the wider end of the spectrum, which like I said, I could see myself liking this on, a hot day or something like that, where I wouldn't necessarily want something like super heavy and, oaky.
Yeah.
But
I'm going back and forth with it.
I'm kind of speaking from like a wino perspective. But
I'm definitely going back and forth with it, where like I start out going, I don't like it very much, and then I kind of come around to it, and then the more I have it, the more I'm like, I just don't think I like it that much.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally get that.
But I don't know, like I definitely want to like score this with our our review system.
Absolutely.
So for people who are new to the show or need a refresher, we have a review system of nose, palate, finish, and price. Each category is out of 5, And then at the end, we tally everything up for a total out of 20. And like, I think I've already kind of given away what my final result is going to be for this review.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm still kind of working through how I really feel about every aspect of it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
How do you want to do this? Because, like, I feel like this might be more of a talking, like a conversational review.
Yeah, we can just kind of go back and forth between each category.
Yeah. So for you, what do you think about the nose?
The nose, I would say it has grown on me since we opened it. I'm not going to lie. Where we started, I would probably have given it a 2 out of 5.
Yeah.
Just because it kind of had like a apple, but like a nail polish remover, kind of like offensive cough syrup kind of vibe to it.
Yeah, I get all of that.
It smelled like it was really hot.
Yeah.
And I still kind of get a little bit of that, but I feel like it's opened up a bit and it's a little bit more floral, like you said. I would probably go for a 3.5.
Okay.
On this one. But that's just
See,
me.
I'm going for more of a 1.5.
Ooh.
Yeah. In that, like, some of the more, like, acetone-y notes that, you know, would be associated with, like, a nail polish remover.
Right, yeah.
Like, those are so present for me that I'm having a hard time looking past it.
Yeah.
And sure, there are things like the lemon or the floralness of it that are present, but it doesn't quite push through in the way that I would like for it to. And like on the palate for me, it seems like it's really fighting for me to want something more.
Yeah.
You know,
I could look for more depth in this.
But it's not. It's just not quite pushing in the right direction.
Yeah, I get that.
So I think I would have to give it a 3. And like that's not bad.
Yeah, no.
But it just kind of like it should be. It seems like it should be more.
Yeah, no, I totally get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is an 11-year bourbon.
At 11 years, it
should have a little bit more oakiness to it.
Yeah.
11-year whiskey, sorry, not a bourbon.
It's okay. I was gonna let it slide this time.
Yeah, I'm kind of fighting between what I think about the palate. As I sip one more time. I would probably I'd probably go with a 3.5 again. Just because I really appreciate how light it is. It is very it's just very unique, but it's not complex. Which is where I dock points from it.
Yeah.
Just because I haven't, had every bourbon under the sun. I'm not as experienced as Perry here, but
stop it.
Oh, stop it, you.
Just.
But like from what I've experienced, I haven't had many that taste exactly like this. But
I haven't either.
In that way, I have to give it credit, but also it's not. There's not a lot of complexity. Like I'm not getting like different notes of different things, which is what you look for in something that is priced at this point.
Yeah.
So I would give it I might actually give it a 3. I'm gonna back down from a 3.5.
Okay.
So yeah, 3.5 on the nose, 3 on the palate.
I think that's fair. The finish, I'm gonna give it 2.5.
Yeah.
It's just really neither here nor there.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
Like I'm not craving another drink, but I'm also not like I have to drink something else. I'm actually, I think really like, I am more intrigued by this whiskey than I have been by a lot of things recently. In the terms of like, I just never had something like this before where I'm like, I really, really have to contemplate what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's kind of hard to decipher what's in this.
Yeah.
Like it's just so unusual, I guess.
I mean, it's so not a bourbon.
Yeah, it's definitely not a bourbon.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like on the opposite end of the spectrum of Jack Daniels.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I would say Jack Daniels is, like, too much of what it is. This is not enough of what it is. Compared to a bourbon, which would be, like, in the middle of these. And I prefer this end of the spectrum from even the really nice Jack Daniels ones that I've had. But is it the Black Label that's their, like, nicer end? Or
I don't know if I'd say nicer, but it's
considered like
it's
a higher price point.
I
think that's what I had. So I can say that this is probably my preferred end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
But
so what would you give the finish?
I would probably give the finish. See, it's weird because there's not a lot of flavor that sticks around, but I do like the minty bite that it has, or the minty burn, I guess you could say. But I wouldn't say that it's like the best thing I've ever experienced.
It's not for everybody.
It's not for everybody. I like it more, so I'm gonna give this one a 3.5 because I can't quite put it at a 4. Just because if there was flavor along with the bite, I would be more inclined to go higher. But no.
I actually gave the finish a 2. In that, like, it just that lemon mintiness of like a Ricola cough drop just sticks around for so long that I'm like, I'm starting to feel like I need to get in bed. Like, I'm not supposed to feel as good as I do right now. But there's some, like, vanilla that kind of comes through, too, with the finish. And it's not a bad flavor. I love vanilla.
Yeah.
But this just doesn't quite push forward the way that I would like for a finish too, so that I can go, I want to experience more of this.
Yeah.
So I have to give it a 2.
Yeah, it does linger like longer than it needs to. That mintiness, I guess.
Yeah.
Whatever you would call it.
So I'm gonna go ahead and
2 on that one.
Yeah, and I'm gonna divulge my price. 2. I'm also going to give that a 2.
Yeah, I would definitely give that one a 2 as well.
Really for almost $50. I mean, and we're talking like not sale price.
Yeah.
Because this was originally $47 and you got it for $27. At $27, I think that it's, nice to get because you can try something different.
Yeah, and that does not warrant a good price point.
Yeah, but like at $27, like I would have gone, it's probably more like a 3.5 or a 4 because it's different and like you can, sure you can, I know. Sure you can try other things at that price, but this is just so unique that you may as well
go
experience
for it.
it. Yeah. But $47?
Absolutely not.
I'm gonna go with a no on this.
Yeah, I wouldn't buy this if it was $47. So I would go with, honestly, a 1.5 on this.
Oh yeah?
I would go for a 1.5.
I'm gonna maintain my 2.
Want to bid our go on a bidding war.
I'm going to maintain my 2 because, sometimes you have to try things that you may not like as much, but you drink it and you're like, oh, now I know why I like
X or Y.
Yeah. And that for me is like this specifically for me. It is like reinforcing why I like bourbon as opposed to American whiskey.
Right.
Like I like this about bourbon. I like that about bourbon. But I just think overall, if you go to a bar and you see Boondock's 11 year,
and it's like 50 cents a shot.
I mean, realistically, this is probably going to be about $7.50 a glass.
Yeah, and I could warrant that. Like maybe.
Yeah. I think
like $6 to $7. I would probably be like, oh yeah, this might be nice to have. But if I'm looking for a bourbon drink, I'm not going to do this.
I would much rather have a bourbon.
I would. Yeah, for the same price, I would not go for this. But
no, I wouldn't either.
Yeah, it's something different.
Well, unfortunately, I gave it a 9.5 out of 20. And you gave it... Hold on, let me tally it up. You gave it an 11.5?
Yeah.
I mean, that seems about right. It falls in that category of, like... Meh.
Yeah, like, I will definitely be drinking this. As I have this bottle, like, I will enjoy it. Like, I do not hate this at all. It's just, it's not something I'm going to be, clamoring for.
Yeah.
Or saving, for that matter.
I will definitely pass over it when I go to the... Yeah, our pets are just...
They're just
really love each other.
Away. It is. They're just killing my heart.
Anyway... so that about wraps up our review portion of the show. So we're going to move on to Tips and Bits.
Excellent.
Which is our recommendation segment. So, Robert, what tips and bits do you have this week?
Well, first, do you have anything in mind? Because I might need to think it like 10 seconds here.
I am running a little bit low on my Tips and Bits list right now. So I'm just going to go with the number 1 on there right now, John Coltrane. When I wrote that, I was going through a pretty heavy Coltrane kick. I think Coltrane is a really good bourbon drinking artist.
Oh yeah.
Too.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
drinking in general artist.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's all part of that like cool factory kind of thing that we always talk about. Wherein, you're just kind of like, I mean, even if I'm not trying to sound like, you're a loser or anything, but like even if you're just kind of hanging out by yourself and, you just got a glass of whatever and you got some sweet sax music playing in the background.
Oh, yeah. Smoking cigars.
I haven't had a cigar in a while.
Yeah, no, I'm not really like drawn to that.
I mean, I like them.
I enjoy them, but yeah.
I like them, but aesthetic. I'm not like, I'm not always going, oh, I really could use a cigar right now.
Yeah.
But I do like them on occasion, especially paired with the right bourbon. So if you have a recommendation for a cigar and bourbon pairing, write into the show. This is my bourbon podcast, this is my bourbon shop at gmail.com.
Yeah.
Which reminds me, do you mind if after you do your tips and bits, we read a little bit of fan mail?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely.
Sure.
So I think I'm just going to go with music. Recent music that's coming out, well, I guess soon coming out, maybe by the time this is aired, will be, as I mentioned before, Ghost's new album, Prequel, is coming out, which I'm pretty excited about. If you're into that kind of vibe of music, it's pretty heavy, but it's good stuff. That and Father John Misty.
Love Father John Misty.
He is so good, and his teaser tracks or his singles have been great, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really looking forward to his new album. I can't remember the title, but I definitely recommend that. He kind of has an Elton John vibe with nihilism kind of grouped in.
I get that.
And I
that.
really enjoy that. So if you're into that kind of thing, I would definitely recommend that.
So we have not gotten a whole lot of I wouldn't say fan mail, but just letters from listeners since we started the show. And we got an email last week from our buddy Ford Willis over at Mountain Mixologist on Instagram. And he said, I just finished episode 4 of the podcast. He's trying to catch up and everything. And he said, where you guys talked about sending in some questions. So I wanted to try and answer this one, to the best of my abilities. And he said, how do you go about tracking down rare bottles for somewhat reasonable prices?
Good question. I don't know that either.
and he said, for example, you guys reviewed the William LaRue Weller, which is part of the antique collection from Buffalo Trace. And he said he recently came across a bottle of Stag Senior, which is also which is also part of. I'm slipping into Christopher Walken there apparently, which is also a part of the antique collection. And he said he found it for like $800. That to me is just too much.
Yeah.
Like people will clamor for Pappy.
Yeah.
At $800.
Not me.
It's just not worth it.
Absolutely not.
But like if you're looking for bottles at reasonable prices, I think my biggest piece of advice is just make good relationships with your local retailers. You can find some stores that have what a few local stores to us have called bourbon lists. Mm-hmm. Where basically, they get something in and they'll call you and, you go in and get it. But you can also, follow them on Instagram, of course, and Twitter or whatever and get notifications about whether or not they have something worthwhile coming in.
Yeah.
But, it's all a matter of patience. It's all a matter of knowing the right people, like our bottle of William LaRue Weller, we didn't acquire without the help of our buddy Swan.
Yeah.
Who is the Bourbon Finder on YouTube, or on Instagram. It's just all kind of part of the process. And even if you don't find those bottles, there's so much good stuff.
Yeah.
Out there. I mean, what do we drink up top?
Yeah.
The Heaven Hill 6-year bottle and bond.
Yeah, you'll find that anywhere.
Anywhere in Kentucky.
Yeah.
But but like, I mean, it's $12. It's 6 years age stated and 100 proof.
Yeah.
I mean, I can understand from a collector's perspective.
Yeah, it's not appealing from that perspective, I guess, but
no.
Yeah.
But like, it all really just kind of depends on your connections,
right,
and the commitment you have to finding everything. So, I mean, that was a very brief lesson on on bourbon hunting and a very brief fan mail segment. But if you have more questions that we'd like for us to answer, hit us up. This is mybourbonshop@gmail.com. You can also use the hashtag This Is My Bourbon Podcast on Twitter and Instagram if you have questions, and we'd be happy to answer them. But anyway, hey, this was kind of a fun little episode that happened out of nowhere.
Was not expecting to go on air.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's pretty nervous.
So, yeah. How many times have you played music in front of people?
It's different. It's different. My voice is involved. Not playing drums.
Yeah, no kidding. Hey, Robert, thank you for being on the show, though.
Yeah, thanks
Appreciate
for having
it. We'll have
me.
you back sometime soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
If people want to find you on social media, where can they do that?
Let's see. So Instagram is Hanna Barbera. Hanna Barbera. So yeah, it's just
clever.
Yeah, just Hanna as in the same thing _ Barbera.
Hanna without an H at the end, though, right?
Yeah. And yeah, you can find me there. Hanna without an H on the end _ BROBERA.
There you go.
That sounds about right.
So, if you would like to find me on social media, I am at pritter1492 on just about every platform. If you would like to reach the show, we are on Instagram and Twitter at My Bourbon Shop. We are on Facebook at This Is My Bourbon Shop, and our Threadless store is bourbonshop.threadless.com if you would like to pick up some of our apparel and merch. I think we have a free shipping thing going on as well right now. Threadless likes to run some free shipping sales like every couple of months. So hit us up if you have questions about that. Become a patron of the show at patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast, or This Is My Bourbon Podcast. For as little as $1 a month, you can keep us going, and we really appreciate it. Tell your friends about the show. Give us a 5-star rate and review on iTunes or whatever you listen to. As always, counteract those 1-star reviews. Can't believe that we have those, but
people are mean.
If you're gonna leave us a 1-star review, at least let us know why. At least let us know why.
And it better not be because you drink vodka.
We're the vodka boys, and we just don't like the bourbon.
Get out of here.
Get out of here. Anyway, thank you all so much for listening. I don't know what's going to happen next week. We're kind of recording this one out of order, but we'll find out when the time comes. Robert, thank you for being on, buddy.
Thank you again for having me.
Yeah, of course. Appreciate it. We will see you next week, but until then, I'm Perry, and this is My Bourbon Podcast.